Today is Thursday, August 13th, and today's rant will be a continuation on Jeb's speech at the Ronald Reagan place over somewhere in California. I want to make a couple things perfectly clear. I do believe in American exceptionalism. I don't believe that it extends to every single aspect of the American way of life. I do not believe that American exceptionalism can extend itself in the Middle East. We are nothing more than the major player, but we are not the dominating player in the Middle East. Jeb seems to have this concept that we can assert ourselves in the Middle East for the good. And I'm not sure if the good means for the real good or just for the purposes that we continue to extract oil and exploit people and get our way over there. But his remedy is just sucks. So one of the things he talked about a bit was something we're doing right now is we're using Turkish bases in Turkey to fly aircraft and to bomb ISIL in Syria. This really isn't a great thing because, in essence, we're invading Syria's sovereignty. Syria doesn't have much sovereignty because Assad just only has so much land that he can control. He can't control the other land. And I'm not really sure what Bush wants us to do because Obama is already doing it in that regard. And we have a lot of problems over there that are not going to be solved by guns. And diplomacy is going to have to be something very, very important to make something happen over there. And there will need to be guns, boots, but they cannot be our boots on the ground. One of the things Jeb talked about was flying those missions from Turkey into Syria and bombing it to protect people. Now the question is, how are they really going to be protected after the bombs are dropped? Are we going to have a contingent force in there, or are we just going to have some marauders go in and clean up the act? We've done a little bit of that with Obama. One of them that has been mentioned where we got some ISIL figure. We killed him and we got his wife. And how are we going to get the land? How are we going to keep the land? I mean, Iraq can't even keep their own land. So how can we keep land that's in a sovereign country, Syria, that we're really not having a civil war with? We're not having a war with them, but we don't like Assad and we'd like to get rid of him. And but now we could even possibly be working with him, strange bedfellows, if we want to fully get rid of ISIL. And there are so many things going on there. Now, forget what Trump had to say, because he says we want to take their oil, bomb their oil to smithereens. That whole area of northern Iraq and Syria, I believe it's about half the size of Texas, maybe more than half the size of Texas. It's a pretty big area. You can't maintain stuff down there unless you have boots on the ground. And there's so many things that are going on in reference to, number one, ISIL trying to wreak their havoc, ISIL having an excellent means of communication in terms of recruiting people through their social media contacts, something that we and others have not been able to get rid of or find a substitute for. But the big substitute is going to be jobs. Because remember, all of this stuff that started in the Middle East with Assad and his civil war, which I believe is about 4 years old, has roots in global climate change, has roots in the fact that farmers got off of their land because they couldn't farm anymore in the Middle East because they had some of the worst droughts, even more so than California is right now. And they came into the cities and there was nothing for them. And of course, that was happening all across northern Africa because of a lot of things, the drought being one of them. And what is going on over there is not going to be ended soon. It will need to have boots on the ground from the various armies. But when you have Syria, when you have Turkey, when you have Iran, when you have Iraq, when you have the Kurds, and then you have ISIL in there, every single one of them has their own agenda. Every single one of them wants to get the best they can. Is it possible to break Iraq up into 3 different countries? Kurdistan for the Kurds, Sunnistan for the Sunnis, and then Iraq for the rest of it. I don't know. Didn't Joe Biden, didn't he go after that at one time? Mention that? Does Turkey want to take some of that land from Syria when that civil war comes over? Are they willing to go in there and occupy territory? Can the Kurds keep that territory? Can they make that part of the Kurdistan for themselves? Is Iran willing to give up some of their northern territory in Iran so that the Kurds can have it? Because the Kurds actually occupy some land mostly in Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. Will Turkey give up some land? I know Turkey won't. They'll fight for that. And they're using this whole thing as their advantage now to go after the Kurds. So the Turkish are sort of getting into a little war with the Kurds. And the Kurds are fighting back. Syria has their own civil war that's going on. ISIL is all over places. The Iraq doesn't really have an army because remember that one story that was about how people who were in the Iraqi army had to pay their supervisor so much money so they didn't have to show up for work. Yeah, that's the legacy that we got going there, and that the best that the Iraqis can do is use the Shiite militia to do their dirty work for them, and when they go into Sunni areas, they really do their dirty work for them. So there's just so much going on there, and for Jeb to say that we need to have leadership, decisive leadership in the Middle East, when there is, what is it? Every solution sucks, including the one we have, but it's the best one that sucks. This is something that, remember, when Saddam Hussein was running Iraq, I didn't think it was the greatest thing. But, women weren't being murdered, women weren't being kidnapped, women could wear makeup, women could get an education, and that ain't what's happening now, all right? And even though he was a brutal dictator, there was relative peace if you did what he wanted you to do. Now, again, I'm not saying that I'm agreeing with all of that. And the Middle East was very peaceful. A lot of this stuff that had been simmering underneath for a long, long time came up to the surface when Jeb's brother came in and started it all. And he started something he didn't know how to complete. It was done for we all know what happened there. But Jeb Bush, I don't know where he's coming from when he talks about decisive leadership in the Middle East. I don't know where he comes from when he says that we can make a difference over there. That time has come. That time is gone. It didn't work then. It will not work now.